we rolling?
We are rolling.
Are you sure?
No.
You make we don't need a repeat.
I see a countdown. I see it happening. This is
The TWA debacle. We can talk about that later.
Yeah. So, welcome everybody to this, the 20th episode. I'm screaming like the mic's up there. Hopefully this one here is working. 20.
Congratulations.
20th episode. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
20th episode of the CDO Matters podcast. And I'm here with guest number one, the data whisperer, Mr. Scott Taylor.
How are you?
And we are doing this from my living room. So there's a lot of quality production here. You can see, everything in the back and a table. And
This is a gorgeous place.
Thank you. And it is happy hour. It is Friday afternoon. Scott's on vacation, but yes, he still, came here to help.
Hence the wardrobe.
Yes, I guess I should have probably. I could have done that.
I don't know about you, but I'm in Florida, baby.
We are in Florida. We are in Central Florida, where for the last few days it's been in the mid 70s, and today we had a polar snap. It's 60 something.
60 something.
Yes, yeah. So yes, I have long sleeves on, and we're bundled up.
I'm just happy to be out of the New England chill. To be down here. It's great to see you.
Likewise.
Spend some time.
Yes.
Not doing as little as possible.
Yeah. So Scott's been all week. Yeah, about a week now.
You'll be here all week. Been here for all week.
All week, folks. And you were off on a cruise?
Yes.
Yeah. Southern Caribbean cruise.
Miami to Miami. Then we're gonna
doesn't sound like a long cruise.
Snowbird, nomad it through other areas of Florida.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
Awesome. All right. Well, glad you could make it and glad you could swing by. So Florida was going to be in the Scott. Scott was going to be in Florida, and we were lucky that he could come by and film this 20th episode.
I wanted to time it just
it's perfect
on the 20th.
Yeah, so it's almost like you knew. It's almost like you knew.
You had finished the 19th.
Yeah.
Said, okay, now we can go.
Yeah.
Just get here right on time because the podcast train leaves when it leaves. We're on.
That's right.
You're on.
That's right. Good production waits for no man. Yeah. Well, so let's go back. So episode number one was done in a conference room in one of the coolest hotels I've been in a long time, maybe ever.
It is very cool.
Maybe ever. The TWA Hotel, which is on the tarmac. I mean, it's connected to the tarmac. JFK Airport.
It's the old TWA terminal.
Okay. Yes, exactly right. Yeah.
It's got to have access to the runways at the tarmac.
Yeah.
It's that old Aaron...
Elko or Aaron Saarinen. But they were the Saarinen brothers, and they did Dulles Airport as well. I guess they had gigs doing airports, but Saarinen, yeah. They were brothers.
Slow turn.
Yeah.
Gay, but... Anyway, it's beautiful. So if you haven't seen, it's like TWA, and they redid it as a hotel, and we were there for an event, and we saw you, and
it was really cool. It was neat. We got to go to a cocktail party in a plane. They call Connie, which is short for a Lockheed Constellation. So the first planes that flew transatlantic were propeller, and there were Lockheed Constellations.
That's why it's called Connie.
Connie, correct.
You did
Constellation.
Paid a lot more attention than I did.
Well, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to that stuff. But if you remember that, you're not going to remember. Maybe you saw it. Well, maybe some of you do. But you would have seen it in a newsreel. Like the Beatles getting off a plane when they're coming to America, they came off a Lockheed Constellation. To make a long story short, they built airports around these planes. And then 2 years later, Boeing came out with a jet, and the airports, the physical infrastructure they built was totally obsolete.
Really?
Yeah. So they had to, So that whole terminal was basically just scrubbed.
Quite a symbolic story for our data audience out there, isn't it?
Scott's like,
everything doesn't work.
That's right. Yeah. And Scott's like, when are we going to segue to data? When are we going to talk about data?
But you're a show.
Yeah. So I'm sure all the chief data officers out there are enthralled with this story of how the TWA terminal was built for obsolescence. But anyway, yes. So it is happy hour. We are imbibing.
The big thing about that podcast.
What?
that you
Yes.
were skipping ahead, not
Oh,
to back to make a short story longer.
Oh, yeah.
Was that?
What was that? It was the first time I'd ever
Yeah,
so it was the first time I'd ever done any of this. And
So that's distinction, so you know that, any of you out there in the best practice world, the first time he's ever done it versus his first show. So I didn't have the total background.
Yeah. I mean, first time I'd ever tried to do any sort of remote filming of any kind. And I'm a hobbyist photographer, and I have relatively expensive equipment, which we're not using today. We're using my iPhone, which works very, 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 very well and is flawless and is fantastic. But I had brought in this expensive equipment, this Nikon DSLR, and I bought microphones like this, and I just all this other stuff. And I think I forgot to hit play or record. Like literally, I forgot to hit.
I know he forgot to hit play.
Something happened. Gremlins. I don't know. Anyway, there was a fantastic 45-minute discussion.
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Pure gold.
And pure gold. Not to mention the fact that he was like in a near-death state.
I wouldn't say it was that far, but I would say it was not.
You were not on your top of your
I
game.
didn't have COVID, but I had some sort of crud.
Yes.
And you'd been traveling too, so
Yes.
neither of us were 100%.
No. I had traveled.
We didn't give 110% in everything we do, but
Well, it's exactly right. It's the things we do for our audience. Yeah. So I had traveled that morning. I was on a morning flight, a 7 a.m. flight out of Austin into Newark. Rented a car, drove to JFK. Whatever. It was the last thing we did that day before the cocktail hour of the conference that we were at. What conference was
the second to last thing we did that day because then the Hampton meeting was
right.
We recorded.
We recorded. And so Scott was so patient. He was nice, and he was like, so I'm coming up, right? Like I'm the rookie in this space. I'm the guy with like 8 LinkedIn followers, and with the man here, Hombre himself. And I'm like, can you throw me a crumb, brother? And can you come do this thing with me? Be on my podcast. He's attending a conference, and that you were comped. Or did you speak? I don't know. You were comped. Yes. But anyway, he was at this conference, and he was there. And for something like this, that's a networking thing, right? We were out there shaking hands and everything. So he was gracious in giving me time. He was not feeling well. I was tired. All of these things, set up, expensive equipment. Drum roll, boom, didn't hit record. So I get through it, and I was like, oh my God, like incredible shrinking Fred Flintstone. Like I felt like this big, and I was like, can we do it again? And it ended up being very good. I think, okay, please check out episode 1. And if you watch it now, you'll know if there is like this view of Scott where in the back of his head is like, Hawker, that's it.
I'm like, did I tell that story already?
Right.
Yeah. Say this?
Yeah, it's exactly right.
It sound like it's
with
just
passion.
coming up.
Yeah, ad-lib, completely ad-lib. Well, it wasn't because it was said 45 minutes earlier. So that's...
So we hit play. Anyway.
So we're looking at the phone now, and I am 100% confident that something is being recorded.
I'm watching all kinds of red lights.
Yes, and I have a GoPro set up as well. So I am fully redundant, backup. All of the CIOs out there should be proud of me. I'm fully redundant. I'm fully backup, and I'm not actually even talking about ChatGPT because I think I am becoming fully redundant with the launch of AI. But we can talk about that later. Well, maybe that's pretty good.
I just want to say up front, if this is not working, I'm not doing it again. This is it, my friend.
That's right. We get one shot. Yeah, we do. We actually have dinner reservations, so that's it. We can't.
Not just the two of us. We both have partners.
Yes, we have our significant others here who are also being gracious and patient and
they get it.
Yes, and they get it. But yeah. So that was episode 1, and Scott's been there through the entire thing. And thank you. And now I've gone from 8 followers to more than 8 followers.
It was an 8. But 20, it's hard to crank out 20 of anything. Really, It is. Just keep it consistent. I know you got a team. I know you have a whole production company behind you. You've got tremendous resources.
I do.
Infrastructure, corporate support.
I do. Yeah, I do. And I'm so grateful for that because like the way I describe myself, I'm like the Vanna White, right? I just get up there. I just turn the letters.
I think you're a little more engaged than just simply turning the letters.
Well, okay. Thank you. But, the self-effacing Canadian thing, that's part of my narrative.
But it is, I never got over that.
Yeah, no, I haven't. It's in me. It's in the DNA. But anyway, I do have a great team, super, super helpful. And to get to 20, ecstatic with that. Hope I'm bringing a unique voice to the space. That was the whole goal. So one of the reasons why I wanted Scott to be guest number 1 and why I'm thrilled that he's guest number 20 and maybe even 40 and 60.
I think coming every score to score with Malcolm is something we should look at.
Yes. So
they roll up.
So I wanted this to be a different voice. And I've been in the data space a long time. And what I've been seeing, and frankly, one of the reasons why I left Gartner is that I just see a lot of the same old over and over and over and over. And I was having conversations at Gartner that were the same conversations over and over and over. The advice was solid. The advice was good. The best practices we talk about day in and day out, connect big data to value and focus on governance and building the team and have a data strategy. All those things, they're accurate and they're spot on. But people weren't doing them. I was literally have conversations with Fortune 500 companies, CDOs of Fortune 500 companies, where they would ask me, call me, Gartner, and I wasn't cheap, right? Gartner's not cheap.
Oh no,
right? Well, you got to hey, this is not cheap.
No, Gartner's model, you pay to buy.
Right.
That's it.
So anyway, not cheap. Calling up Gartner and saying, hey, we're having a problem with A, B, or C. What do we do? And based on my 30 years of experience, based on a lot of failures, based on all the resources that I had at Gartner and access to other, really, really, really smart analysts, I would say, here's what you do, A, B, and C. And then they would call me 6 months later, and I'm like, how's A, B, and C? Oh, we didn't do that. And
we tried to skip to C.
Well, maybe.
Because that's where the fun stuff is.
Easy button.
But, right. I don't want to do A and B.
Yeah.
And don't you have, can you do BC? Do you have that?
There was some of that, but anyway,
you got to do the hard work. I don't know why people think that
you do
a shortcut in any possible way. There isn't really in any other part of the business.
Yeah.
There isn't, I hate to say it, in life, not too philosophical here.
Right.
But it's like people are calling you and want to lose weight and get in shape, and you're telling them you got to
8-minute abs
and eat right, and then they come back and say, well, I just got back from Burger King.
6-minute abs.
Yeah,
4-minute abs.
Where is it? I got my Ninja Foodie, and I can hang a lot more clothes on the Peloton than I can on the Bowflex. I found that much out.
So,
there's no...
Yeah. So, but the conclusion that I came to, partially, right? Some of it is just sheer, I don't want to say laziness.
What, on your part?
Right. Well, no. Well,
you mean on the part of the folks who are not taking your...
Some of it, who knows? I don't think there's ill intent. I'm a big believer in positive intent. But the conclusion that I came to out of all of this was that the way that we, meaning people like us and others, are the messages, the way that we're delivering the messages, there's something wrong. Something is falling down. Something's failing. I
don't know about me.
No, well, that's why he was guest number 1. was because...
Like, this is the big lead up.
This is the... Yes. Yeah. Well, with me, Gartner analyst, ex-Gartner analyst, sometimes you think I'm paid by the word. But I was looking out, I was like, well, who's successful? Who's making a difference? Who is doing things differently? Who is shaking the fruit from the tree? Who's taking a different approach, and where does it seem to be working? Look no farther. What I was seeing from Scott was a different way of delivering a message. I was seeing storytelling, of course, critically important, but storytelling in a different way, storytelling in a very digestible, approachable, human kind of way that wasn't all wrapped up in techno babble, right? Right. That was being done in a way that was, again, rather accessible. And I said, aha. I can't be him because nobody can be him. Only he can be him. Thank God.
We all have a role to play. You play for you.
Yes.
I admire you. I think you're really brilliant in this space and what you've done. We worked together hand in hand, right? Traveled the world, which is a whole separate set of stories.
Yeah.
But you got the goods. Let's just put it that way. But
thank you.
We do different things. Right?
Yes.
We serve. Somebody would engage with us for different reasons.
Yeah.
It could overlap a little bit, but mostly not.
Yeah. So I decided, okay, well, how I was doing things at Gartner wasn't really working that well. Yes, from an ego perspective, it was very fulfilling because I'm a Gartner analyst and la-di-da-di-da. But it really wasn't working. And as trite as this may sound, my mission is to help companies grow, to help CDOs succeed, help CDOs tenure extend to at least be somewhere similar to a CIO. We've got halfway to go. 5 years versus 2.5 years. And I believe in that. That's kind of my mission. And I was like, okay, well, how do I do this differently? yes, everybody's got a podcast. Yes, everybody's got blogs, all those other things. But my hope was that I could do a podcast slightly differently. And I thought having Scott for episode 1 would be a kind of a great amuse-bouche, as it were.
As it were.
Yeah. To try to do things a little bit differently. And that's been a guiding principle, and it will remain a guiding
I
principle.
always like talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Spent a lot of time in the trenches together.
We did spend a lot of time in the trenches.
Bonds people at a certain level.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think it's just hysterical that storytelling is such a thing now, because I've been doing storytelling. If I go back in my career, I've been doing storytelling since it was 2 words.
Right.
And it's always been something that I've done despite my other responsibilities.
Yeah.
And when looking, like, I was a general manager of a business, I was terrible at kind of the management part. I was great at the visionary part, where we're going to go next. I hated all the kind of people, I can admit this, doesn't matter to me, people management part, people development part. It was like, if people were great, I loved working with them. If they weren't, it was like, find somebody to help this person, but I didn't have the patience or the interest, frankly, and looked at, all right, I'd rather go out, be outside the company, talk to people we don't know, get them to go from like, I have no idea what you're talking about, to how do we live without this? That for me is a huge thrill.
Well, yeah.
It's always been storytelling. One of the biggest compliments I ever got while we were at D&B was from the guy at Biznode, who just simply said, you've taught us a new way to talk about what we already know. It's like, perfect.
Yes, bingo.
Perfect for me, at least for me. That doesn't go, it serves a role. It's not, there's a lot of things that doesn't do.
Right.
Like, get it done. Right? Like, execute in terms of,
okay,
all right,
yeah,
that's great. That's a vigilance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
Get away, Mount.
Yeah, that's why we kind of work like this Sonny and Cher type thing when we were on the road, is that he was the why and I was the how. And I think
different wardrobe though.
Yeah.
Not go for the Sonny and Cher.
Slightly. And I don't think I could ever recall a situation where we were on stage and actually imbibing at the same time. There were plenty of dinners that we had after the fact.
Yeah, but this is different. When we were, doing first of all, they were mostly lunches.
There were mostly lunches, yeah.
So that caused problematic.
We had
they're cracking open a few at lunch.
Do you remember that?
We had 30 cities. I believe that's my count. 30 cities. They're walking countries.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Europe,
I've never done the
China, Northern Hemisphere. We never got to the Southern Hemisphere.
No.
But I was working on those partners.
Yeah.
And it was a blast.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. Do you remember?
Do all 30, right? Because we handed it back and forth.
There was a few that, there were
trips, because Liz, who was another partner.
Yeah. Amazing.
He had an actual job. So they partnered.
Yes, I did have a job.
Who had actual jobs at D&B. My job was to just do what I was doing. This was like an extra thing. Good. A lot of benefits, but not.
Yeah. No, it was
so like traded off between you and Liz.
I think there is a lesson there for a CDO as well. And I think that it is in not just the storytelling aspect, but having a consigliere and kind of an Egg McMahon, maybe to an Andy to a Conan, right? And to have and the kind of the powerful 1-2 punch there of having somebody who is charismatic, outgoing, who can sit down, dresses up well, have conversations, with senior executives, but also somebody who can execute and who has the chops and who has a little bit of street cred. And I think that there's something there about that combination.
It's hard to find that balance.
It is.
But usually pair up with somebody.
Right.
Then you can cover that spectrum.
Right.
That's important too.
Right.
But really knowing your position, playing that position really well, but knowing that position.
Right. I think the hard part for CDOs here is, from at least from a storytelling perspective, the average CDO is going to say, okay, I can do that. And maybe you can, and that's great. But if you can't, or you don't think you can, hiring a dedicated headcount just for that is a tall order.
Yeah.
Right. And particularly those who are extremely good at it. If you were to go to buy as it were.
Not for sale.
Yeah. If you were as a full-time, I think for the average company outside the Fortune 100, I think that would be really, really tall.
Regardless. I mean, even at, we'll mention their name. We won't mention their name. We're just using their initials, D&B. even there,
Dave and Buster.
they had trouble really kind of pinning what I did down in the right way.
Yeah.
Should have been in marketing, but the marketing department was radioactive. And then they tried to look at, okay, direct correlation. And meanwhile, we're educating the entire populace, the army, that army on a better way to talk about it.
Right.
We're getting great results in terms of salespeople going, oh, I get it now. I only have to use one slide. I remember bringing the pitch in. And these are more examples of storytelling, not just necessarily war stories, but okay, what works and what doesn't work. And think about your own organization when you're putting these educational things in place. You're trying to train a field force or an entire organization on certain things. You got to think about how you deliver them. And when I reframed the story of this particular thing, I remember bringing it to one sales meeting, and I said, I have 10 slides, and they started to applaud.
Keep it under 10.
Because just that alone was significant enough at this company and that culture to be a big thing. I was really surprised, so I just kept going with it. I said, but the first one's hello, the last one's thank you, so it's really only 8. And if you only have time for one, here's the one slide to focus on. A slide that told enough of the story that you could get a reaction and engagement from the audience to then decide to do something next. Nothing covers everything.
No.
But if the idea is, okay, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why is this important to me? What's it going to do? What does my life look like if I do this? How does it change? Those are a lot. And then a lot of the what it actually is that you deliver. That's a lot to put together. But if you can be really succinct and almost symbolic about it, which we were, right? We had the 5 pillars and the 4 pillars. Each pillar was a thing that we talked about. All those constructs, if they work for you, I mean, they do work. Those things work. You just don't want to over-engineer them. We got 19 pillars and 32 crosstabs, and then we got circles. And that was the thing about Gardner that always made me hysterical. I'm trying to go back in history. Circle, the nexus of forces. Then it was like the triangle of triangularity. Then it was like a hexagon of whatever.
The conjoined triangle of success.
Right. Then it was like circles going this way, and the British drawing it down. Okay, this year we got to use arrows, but the left. So that's just an example of like getting too far. Anyway, we're just ranting here. Well, one of the best compliments I got from a Gardner analyst when I gave him a pitch was when I was sharing it with something. He said, "Is that our slide?" Like, no, that's my slide.
Nice.
That's my slide, baby.
Nice.
I came up with that. It was like a big curve going up with increasing value and a bunch of vectors and just engaging, just enough stuff going on that people were interested and to get engaged, but not too much to overwhelm them. So.
It's funny you mention Gardner and the complexity there. Now I know a lot of people watching are paying for Gardner subscriptions, and I recommend it. Some of the smartest people that I know.
Okay, it's like,
and when it comes to particularly vendor evaluations, like Gardner is unbelievably good at vendor evaluations, and I can tell you from personal experience, they take being unbiased incredibly seriously and do a lot of things to make sure that the insights that they give are unbiased, are objective. But to your point about the complex diagrams, I can recall being in a couple of meetings where we were looking at a classic 2x2, right? The consulting 2x2, and there were serious discussions going on. Okay, well, how do we make this 3-dimensional?
Yeah, this is too simple.
Could we even make this 4-dimensional? Right? Like how do we pivot and it's funny. I have amazing respect for Gardner and my time there and the people there, and the organization is it's a well-run machine. But some of the peculiarities of Gardner, I had a post on LinkedIn with the help of also ex-Gardner, Doug Laney.
Doug is fantastic.
And we were having a conversation. It was episode 5 of CDO Matters. Please check it out, I believe, where we were talking about the way data people like to make new words for the same stuff. Yeah. Like we'll just invent words, right? Like we like to make words because we like to make anyway. And Doug said this phrase. He said, pedantic semanticism, semantic pedanticism. And I was like, oh, Doug, brilliant. Can I use that? I'm going to use that. And because I thought it was a parody. Like literally, it was a parody. I built a framework. I called it the semantic pedanticism feedback loop.
It's beautiful. It's some of your best work.
But it was done as a parody.
That's my boy. Look at that.
It was done as a parody, but then I thought...
No, parodies are based on truth.
But I thought... Funny. So I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought about Gartner's business model. Great company, mad respect for Gartner. Recurring subscription, okay? And you're selling insights in a recurring subscription. What's the worst thing that can happen?
I stopped subscribing to you.
No, well, exactly right. So the worst thing that can happen from Gartner is that you stop subscribing. But from the Gartner side, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, you stop innovating and you're not providing new insights, and the things that you're saying are the same over and over and over and over again. Like what? Because like if I'm buying toothpaste and it's the same toothpaste year over year over year over year over year, and we're not innovating on the toothpaste, well then like okay, and I'm but this is insights, right? Like the insights from 10 years ago, it's all written down on a piece of paper. I've got the old reports. What do I need now? So there is a built-in motivation in Gartner to innovate. And for them to innovate means creating new stuff and new ideas. Like to your point.
Or new ideas for ideas.
And new ideas for ideas. So there is a built-in motivation to come up with new stuff from a business model perspective. Also, Gartner analysts, and they may disagree with this. I don't. There is a certain degree of competition that's happening from analysts as well, because
that's an inside thing.
Yeah, and it's actually healthy. Yeah,
it's like any academic.
It's exactly right. Publish or perish, and be on stage or perish. So if you come up with the next big idea, and if you come up with the next big thing, if you are the creator of the data fabric or the something, then you're going to get, prominent placement on stage of the next thing. You'll be your story, your thing will be picked up at the IT symposium. So there's Data and Analytics Summit, then there's IT Symposium. That's Gartner Super Bowl. Like that's the big deal, right? And if you're speaking on the stage as a data person at IT Symposium, well, that's it. You've arrived. Like this is it. You've hit the peak. So there's a motivation for analysts to come up with new things. So there's a business motivation to come up with new things. There's an analyst motivation to come up with new things. So they do. And you may be looking at this, you're like, what? Wait, this data observability. What? Like,
yeah, is this right? So is that real enough? Is it different enough? Is it different from other stuff? I mean, I look at this from, I agree with you, first of all, that there's this cycle.
Yes.
Somewhat self-fulfilling support.
Well, that's another aspect of this. Yeah.
Thing in our space that creates this, in most cases, this froth and mayhem and buzzwordiness and the search for the latest, greatest thing, and plays into my thesis, which I think one of the biggest things holding back the entire data community is how we talk about it.
Oh, amen.
And adding more to that effluvia, to that vocabulary is in total kind of counterproductive.
Yeah.
And you get all these different kinds of techniques people use. They try to coin stuff. They try to get cute about it. They want to have... I was stuck in that. Again, we're going back to Grad Street, but just as a microcosm is where I truly discovered that there was this overlap. The marketing department there wanted to make, and again, I'm using this as a symbolic example. I'm sure plenty of you could relate to this. So you have marketing. Marketing's there to tell the story. They don't always understand what they're talking about in terms of where that story comes from. That's fine, because they're marketers. They can tell a better story than any of the people who come up with the stuff. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not, because they get totally wrapped up in their own poetry.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so this sounds great, and you go, but it's not accurate in any way.
Right.
That terminology in the ears of somebody who understands the business or understands the issue is going to sound false.
Right.
And that was my constant, was like, it can sound cool, but it also has to be correct.
Right.
And I would tell that to you. I mean, back in my history, again, being a storyteller and more on that end of the spectrum, I constantly paired up with somebody who was technically accurate and would say, look, you owe it to me. All right. I can make things sound good. That's what I do. But it has to be correct.
Right.
So stop me. You don't have to stop me at mid-phrase, but tell me, that doesn't sound right.
And to your credit,
we do that.
Like, we just riffed on data observability recently, did we not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I had, and I'm like still behind the scenes. I'm like, all right, is this right? Do I have this right? Because I can then take it and make it funny or entertaining or poke at it or be satirical or all those things to help prove that point. But if I'm not based in some form of technical reality, then my stuff sounds like crap.
So I agree. There's got to be a basis of technical reality, but I do also think that there has to be some idea of uniqueness or novelty in these new things because
that's the temptation that people fall into, and that tends to drag them towards I'll pick one, lake house. Right? Well, because I just think that's a silly name. Sorry for all you people in the lake house world, but I get it. It's like it's a data lake and it's a house, but it's not. And it's like that. My response is always, is that where my data goes on vacation? And it's just, but is it and what happens is the people you're going for funding for, which is the whole premise of my whole book, Telling Your Data Storytelling for Data Management, available on Amazon, Technic publication.
100% buzzword free.
99% buzzword.
Go.
Sorry.
Go. 99% buzzword free.
I do not want to overpromise.
Okay.
When you're going for funding and you're back and saying some version of this latest, greatest thing is going to change the way, it's going to fix all the problems that I told you we were going to fix the last time I told you the latest, greatest thing was going to fix all the problems I told you we were going to fix. And like,
I haven't forgotten.
Right. And so you've got a certain, I believe, on the business side, a certain amount of cynicism, weariness over it's like, and I don't think it helps either when, as data people, we come barging in there talking with selective amnesia, like the MIB, Men in Black kind of, forget about that,
What do you mean?
Whatever we told you.
What do you mean that do? I never said that could solve your problems.
What a cluster.
I never said that would solve your problems.
So, that, and trying to get them to, so we have that kind of selective amnesia, and then coming in with statements like, and again, all respect to our own community, to get this right, we have to change the culture. And it's like, wait a minute. Really? So even if that's true, I don't think you will lead with that because it's the hardest thing in an organization. And who the hell are you as the data person to come in and say, well, here's what I need. We need culture change.
So if there was one thing that I would ask CDOs to take away from this episode, and if you've lasted 32 minutes of Scott and I drinking beer and ranting,
thank you.
Good on you.
We'll buy you one next time.
That's exactly right. If there was one thing that I would take away is this: culture will change when you deliver results.
Yeah, bingo. Right.
Results are not a dependency on culture change, and when you make results dependent on culture change, you are doomed to fail. Deliver results, and the culture will follow. Culture change is like, I view it as like exhaust on a car, right? But it's not the fuel. It's not the fuel. And when you make it the fuel, I'm in your world here. I'm like rice roll cookers.
You're right. Yeah.
When you make culture change a dependency for success, I
just think it's too. Yeah, I think it's too hard of a thing to demand.
Right.
As valid as many of us believe it is.
Right. It's valid, but
deliver on that.
Right.
How many CEOs? How many true leaders do we know who have gone into organizations and have had as one of their primary objectives, we need to change the culture, and and have failed?
Right. Well, of course, because it's a 3, 4, 5-year journey. It's not going to happen overnight. How many CEOs have tried and failed? This I would argue is one of the biggest traps that CDOs and chief digital officers are falling into.
I think the culture. I'm going to jump up. Why?
I think it's the title that they give to sales and marketing people who are more comfortable with having that title and who lean more towards sales and marketing, who lean more towards. That's my theory.
I don't see any reason for a CDO to be chief digital officer. That's like, and they go, well, we have, where's that even fit?
I think you could make a case to incubate a role like that, but to say chief digital officer assumes that, hey, chief analog officer.
CDO to you or CDO?
Right. chief data officer. Without a doubt. I mean, I think you could make some case to kind of incubate if you were like literally
C-level
right.
job.
Well, they're not right.
CDO is another rant.
Don't get me going.
Like, I mean,
you did it. Yeah.
You don't have analytics unless you have data. I'm sorry, there's a hierarchy there. It's just true.
Did you see my post today?
Did I not?
I literally made that post today. I literally made it today.
I was off
the LinkedIn post of data versus analytics. Why do we separate data and analytics? Why do we have data and analytics
versus meaning?
Why? Why do they?
Because it's like, because they have to have something that's like a little cooler than just the data.
Well, so a number of my kind followers who are incredibly smart people have responded, and the common theme seems to be that it's unique, that requires different management. But the counter to that is that no, and where I fall in this argument, which I don't really think is much of an argument, is no, it's not different. One enables the other. Analytics is a data use case, right? And I started the conversation by asking the question: should we be separating analytical use cases of data versus operational use cases of data?
They're kind of naturally done. I mean, there's a natural chasm there.
There is, but there shouldn't be. Right? If you are building a data science model in an analytics world, what are you doing that for? You're doing that so it can be applied, operationalized within some use case to make decisions that will drive operational outcomes. This is one of my pet peeves with the data mesh. I've got a few. There's some things that I really, really like about it, but this idea that the data mesh is an analytical construct. It's for analytical uses only. It's like the disclaimer, right?
It's in the first paragraph.
Yes.
Of Queen Z's book. I have tremendous admiration for her and what she's done in terms of storytelling.
Unbelievable storytelling.
Hottest storyteller right now out
agree.
There in terms of traction getting from there. But that's the topic of another episode. But I had the same reaction.
Right.
When I say data, I mean analytics.
Yeah.
Like in the first paragraph. So that's as far as I read. And just kidding. And I wonder about that too. Why? Yeah, why does that have to?
Well, because the operational stuff is hard. Right? Like you can
business is pretty difficult.
Right, but the operational stuff is hard because how do you operate cross-functionally or from a mesh perspective, cross-domain?
But I don't understand in that data mesh premise, right? Again, first paragraph.
Yeah.
When I say data, if I'm recalling it correctly, something.
No.
When I refer to data, I mean analytics. That some form of that statement is on the first page.
It's close, and I think what she would say is that she's not conjoining, or they're not synonyms. It's that the model is an analytical model. This socio-technical construct is about analytics.
And socio-technical had me there too. That was like, all right, that's a good one. I love that.
Now, so in defense here, I mean, it is within that first paragraph. She says this is really, really hard, and it really doesn't exist yet. But anyway, going back to analytical versus operational, I don't know how you throw those into silos. It doesn't make any sense to me. And what I see happen is that when you give the keys to domains or functions or groups or departments to come up with their own analytics, they'll do it, right? And then they'll create their own rules. They'll create their own data definitions. They'll create their own data quality rules. They'll create their own dashboards. And maybe that's good to a certain degree. That freedom is good. But then when you have to operate cross-functionally to move a contract out of sales and into finance, when you have to move the product out of manufacturing and into marketing, when you have to behave cross-functionally, what happens? Right? The answer is, well, not all decentralization is inherently good, and not all centralization is inherently bad. You need to have both, but the model really doesn't address that. The cross-functionality, it doesn't. And I think a reason, getting back to how we describe things, the word we use, and I'm pointing at you, which in some cultures is not nice.
No, but the podcast is find a point.
Because it's confidence. How we describe things when we separate data and analytics, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think it helps build this mindset that analytics can exist in this silo, can exist in this vacuum, that where it has its own rules, its own constructs, its own governance, and its own things, and that's fine.
Its own budget and its own.
It's not. And its own title. Right. I'm the chief analytics officer, but I'm not the chief data officer.
You're not reporting to the CEO. Well, if you're the chief.
Maybe some extremely large companies. Probably not. Probably not.
Deal with most folks most of the time for most of your data that you want to use.
Yeah, exactly.
For what you do, that's the big middle part that you and I swim in.
Yep.
And there's not, we're not all talking about Uber or, or some two-person startup. There's like, I manufacture a widget. I got to do that better. I got to find new opportunities. I've got to make sure I've got to mitigate new kinds of risk. I'm trying to be a little more ESG oriented. I've got to improve some operational stuff, find, growth opportunities. That's the
meat potatoes.
The meat potato strategy.
Get it done.
Approach of most companies most of the time, and data can help all those companies in a lot of ways.
Yep.
In a lot of areas that are relatively straightforward.
Yep. So to CDOs out there, I would invite your teams to use old words to describe the same things. I would call BS on things where people are trying to sell you or get budget for some shiny new thing that maybe necessarily isn't a shiny new thing. So there's nothing wrong with old words. All good. It's 2023. It's January. What do you got planned for the year?
I've got it.
What's coming up for Data Whisperer?
Coming up, we've got this extended kind of low, chill period, which is nice.
Hibernation.
I just found out. I'm going to MIT CDO IQ. I got a speaking slot there.
Right on.
I provided.
Hopefully not different counter to me because I'm speaking as well.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm kind of in. So I'm in the tent.
Dr. Richard Wang and his team do a great job.
Tent. I'll be there. Hopefully I'll be working with some brands there. I got a slot. That's fun. Also, Big Data London, which I'm super excited about. There I'll be in front of lots of people. So right now,
will you be on the badge?
I have a virtual session.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see whether we can get in front of some folks. But in London, they're going to give me a nice general big stage thing. As you know.
Yeah.
I have a fear of not public speaking. So I'm not for these opportunities. I'm not
virtual
webinar.
Virtual.
Yeah. How many more people can we fit in this room?
Right.
Bigger room, stage, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What else? Carruthers Jackson Summer School. They have me back for a record third year. I always do. I'm a guest faculty.
Oh, that's cool.
If you haven't registered for Carruthers Jackson Data Summer School, go out there and do that. I'll plug them. You should try it. It's a blast. They do every week for like 8 weeks.
Is it like certifications or something? Or
it's just a nice thing. I mean, they're brilliant, the two of them. I love the two of them. And they've got such tremendous experience. If you haven't been exposed to them, I'll introduce you to them because they're just wonderful folks.
Yeah, let's do it.
And they speak and think like we do. Part of my initial attraction to them was seeing them at a conference and going, I love these two. They were, aside from their own kind of technique and how they build off each other, they're also saying stuff that I totally believe in. So it's self-selection if you like, but they're successful. They get it. People follow them and people love what they say and they help a lot of folks. Probably biggest creative thing on the agenda for this year is it's kind of puppet or shut up from me this year.
If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I mean,
that's why it's like
no. It's unique. It's you. It's unique. I've never heard that. Puppet or shut up.
All right.
I've never heard it.
I've been listening inside my head. That's all.
No. Well, that's a separate conversation.
Puppet. Yeah.
No. I've never heard that. That's my being way. But more. I'm down. I'm down with the puppet.
The epic puppet journey. I think I've got definitely the basic story framed out. The travel. This journey of the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer, the ITB, which the derivation of, which is Spun, who speaks only in buzzwords. The business monkey business. I've got a cat sultan from Meow Kinsey. There will be an antholist from Gardner, so we'll see how that goes. And a couple other those kind of classic trope-like data characters you see, know, love, and probably are at some degree because we all are driving toward that ultimate goal of making data work for their organization. That's all they want to do. It's all they want to do is create a data-driven utopia of interoperability where insights flow freely from workflow to edge across integrated ecosystems, and
how did you memorize that so fast?
Gets the quarterly reports out. They only want to do those two things.
So that is that a tagline? That's you're going to keep that? Wasn't that, I saw that in one of your posts where I thought
it's all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used it in a number of areas.
Okay.
It's kind of my like sort of rip.
You're flying it out there. You're testing it. You're doing some beta testing.
To get the data-driven utopia of interoperability where insights flow freely from workflow to edge across integrated ecosystems, you need the analytics graph hub fabric mesh.
Analytics
graph hub
fabric mesh, aka the Spanx.
That's different. That's what you need if you want to. If you're trying to implement both the data fabric and the data mesh, then you need
the data Spanx.
The data Spanx. To tighten that integration.
That's exactly right. To hold it all in. To hold it down. To hold it all in. You need the data Spanx.
The data Spanx. Watch for that. So big puppets. I hope. Epic. I got all kinds of
like big, large.
I shot a scene with
marionettes.
No, I shot a scene with Carruthers and Jackson. So I did a scene with them. I was forced to write it. I put it together. I sent it to them. I didn't hear anything for 3 days. I'm like, they think it sucks. This didn't work. I typed it up like a script. It looked, with stage direction, all the rest of it. Then I talked to them. They were going to do it. They go, this is fabulous. We love this. So
awesome.
They play pair, Bubbles and Squeak. They run the chief dog officer obedience school.
All right. Okay.
And the dog comes and talks to them, and they train this dog
how to run a data organization.
Yeah, it's their little part of it
to become graph enabled.
It's a one
edge to edge.
And we just taped the vocals. We just taped the audio. So I'm going to dub that in with some finger puppets so I don't really have to do this. I don't know how deep you want me to go on some of this.
I'm all in.
But I'm learning myself. I got to get better at puppet. Yeah. I got to, the puppets with the stick and the arm.
Yeah, marionette.
Learn how. No, not the marionette. But like you have one hand, Bert, not Ernie. Ernie's got hands and gloves. It's actually a 2-person puppet. But like Bert and Kermit are just one hand, and then you've got a stick that moves the other arm, and that's what
coming soon.
That's what I'm working on.
To LinkedIn near you.
To a screen near you. The Puppets of Data, their epic journey. Follow the CDO, the chief dog officer, and all his friends, dealing with turmoil that many of these people who are listening to this have to deal with.
So that sounds like a busy year. And inevitably, you will be pouncing on a few other kind of opportunities as they come.
I got a monthly show with the folks at Locate, the wonderful geolocation data. You appeared on that.
I did. Yep.
Ask the experts every month. We bring in an expert on geolocation data, so that's fun. That's a steady gig. I like that. And working with a couple other brands where I can, and doing data shows.
Awesome. So what's the curveball? What's the one thing we may not be thinking about? Like, is there like any sort of like black swan event that you see out there? Like any sort of transformational thing you see? I know this is kind of an odd question.
Yeah. I don't really pay attention to that in that way. I always say I'm not a trends guy.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who goes, show me these top 10 trends and I'll show you how most, if not all of them, aren't going to work.
Right.
Unless you have what we talk about. So I kind of sit because I can't pick up on those things the way.
Are you for hire? Like, can I hire you? You don't know what I want to hire you for yet. Like, no, but getting back, and this isn't for selling, but like if I want a data story to be told, I'm a CDO and I want the data story to be told. Is that something you could guide me on?
Yes, I think so. I haven't done like direct consulting, but the first thing I would say to somebody is buy my book.
Yep.
Because that has enough stuff in it to help you sort of put that together. And I've done some corporate events, so that's another thing I do. That's another thing I do if you're interested. So corporate events, which I define as kind of internal, you don't promote them. I did one for a bank. I've done one for a standards body. I did one for a manufacturer. Similar to what I did at D&B when, a big client or somebody would have a data day, right?
A
business meeting. Right. Or they're having their own team together.
Or a kickoff or something.
Yeah, so for this manufacturer, they were kicking off a brand new sales system. It had a lot of pieces. It was a 2-day event. They had me talk about the importance of data governance, data management, foundational stuff.
Yep.
And I played on, okay, all this great sexy stuff you're gonna end the day with. You can't get there unless you adhere to standards, search before create, all these things that the data governance team was touting as what they needed to do, but I added my spin to it and, being a third party, and made a simple way to talk about it. And like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, on that, thank you.
Are we done? Yes.
Thank you so much for, I just decided to lose my voice right at the end. Episode 20, CDO Matters. If you want a data storyteller, if you want to learn how to data storytell, if you want to hire a data storyteller, this guy, this is the real deal right here. There's nobody better at telling stories with data than the data whisperer, Mr. Scott Taylor. My GoPro is on the verge of dying.
Right. So
yeah, you can hear the
battery's dead. So
we can hear the beeping. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for subscribing to the podcast. Thank you for following on LinkedIn. If you aren't already, please do. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of CDO Matters podcast sometime very, very soon. Thanks all.